Hey third graders, welcome back to Wild Robot. We are on chapter 47, The Parade. Does it hurt? Brightbill touched the smooth surface where his mother's foot used to be. No, it doesn't hurt, said Roz, but it will be difficult for me to walk. The bears huddled behind the gooseling and stared at the robot's stump of a leg. Nobody understood how a foot could pop off like that, or how Roz could remain calm. Roz, I'm sorry my cubs attacked you, said Mother Bear. Sometimes they're completely out of control. It is okay. You know how they are at this age. I can't thank you enough for saving Thorn. I promise my cubs will never bother you again. Isn't that right? Yes, Mother, said Nettle and Thorn together. The robot tried to walk. She bobbed up and down on her uneven legs, which worked well enough on flat surfaces of the cliff top, but when she entered the forest, her problem became clear. The smooth stump had no grip, and it slipped around on the forest floor. So Roz tried hopping on her one good foot. She took a few crunching hops and then clanged into a tree trunk. A few more hops and crashed into the undergrowth. I'm really sorry I broke off your foot, said Thorn as he helped the robot out from the weeds. I forgive you, said Roz. Whether she was capable of true forgiveness is anybody's guess. But they were nice words, and Thorn felt better after he heard them. It looks like I will have to crawl home, said Roz. Nonsense, said Mother Bear. I have a better idea. Mother Bear lay flat on the ground while her cubs boosted Roz onto her back. Then Brightbill fluttered onto the bear's broad shoulders, and when they were both safely aboard, the group set off through the forest. The robot was heavy, but she was in no trouble for a giant animal. Mother Bear strolled along as if it were perfectly normal for a robot to be riding on her back. They made quite a grand procession, all walking together like that, and the procession became even grander as the deer and raccoons and birds and all kinds of other animals joined in. Everyone wanted to see the mother robot riding the mother bear. The group wound its way past ancient trees and over rolling meadows and through babbling streams, collecting more and more curious animals as they went. It was the grandest parade of wildlife anyone had ever seen, and leading the way was our robot Roz. But the parade couldn't last forever. As the sun went down, the other animals began drifting away one by one, and when the parade finally arrived at the nest, only the original members remained. Here we go, said Mother Bear, helping Roz down the garden. Now, wasn't that better than crawling all the way home? Oh yes, that was wonderful, said the robot. I can't imagine a better ending to this day. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was amazing, squeaked the gooseling. My friends won't believe me when I tell them I rode across the island on the back of a bear. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself, Mother Bear smiled. It's the least I could do after all the trouble these two caused. Her smile became a frown, and she glared at her cubs, who suddenly took great interest in a pebble on the ground. It was late, and it had been a long, difficult day for everyone, so the bears said goodbye and headed back into their cave. Brightbill and Roz stood at the garden and watched their new friends lumber away. And the gooseling said, Mama, do you think you'll ever walk again? I'm not sure, said the robot, but I know who to ask for help. Now go get ready for bed. Chapter 48. The New Foot. Think, who do you think she's going to ask for help? Mr. Beaver squinted at Roz's stump. I've never built a foot before. He stroked his whiskers and muttered to himself, There are really 3 problems to solve. The foot needs to grip the ground, it needs to be durable, and then there's the issue, fixing it to the leg. I might have to consult a few friends. Will she ever walk again? Said Brightbill. What's that? Mr. Beaver was lost in his thought. Oh, not to worry. You just sit back and leave everything to me. I love a good challenge. Mr. Beaver plucked into the pond and returned a while later, rolling a large section of tree trunk. Say hello to your new foot, he said, slapping them with his tail. Hello, new foot, said the robot. That's the spirit. This beauty is from one of the hardest trees I ever chewed. I just need to make a few modifications. Mr. Beaver placed the piece of wood next to Roz. He squinted, repositioned the piece, and squinted some more. With his claws, he marked different spots on the wood. And then he put his big chompers to work. The beaver chewed and gnawed and carved up that piece of wood, turning it over and over in his paws. Chit-Chat looked down from a branch and chatted through the quiet moments. This reminds me of a time I saw a fox catch a lizard by the tail, and somehow the lizard's tail fell off, and he got away. And later I saw the lizard got a new tail, and now Roz is going to get a new foot, and everything will be fine. The wooden foot took shape, and before long Mr. Beaver was standing beside a beautiful carving that resembled a boot. He tried to slide it over Roz's stump, but the opening was too small, so he scraped out more wood until it was a perfect fit. "Very good," he said, spinning out a wood chip. "My friend should be arriving any minute, with the next few things we'll need. And there they are now. I'd like you to meet Bumpkin, Lumpkin, and Rumpkin, but I call them the Fizzy Bandits." The three fat raccoons shuffled into the garden, dragging a tangle of vines behind them. "Good day," said Bumpkin. "Good day," said Lumpkin. "Good day," said Rumpkin. You might already know this, reader, but raccoons have very nimble hands, and the Fuzzy Bandits use their skillfully tie those vines around the robot's leg and around her new foot. The vines caught nicely on all the dings and dents and scrapes. Once they were tied good and tight, Mr. Beaver threw back his head and hollered, "Thwack! We could use your assistance." There was silence. And then 3 quick taps echoed down the forest canopy. "Ah, that'll be him," said Mr. Beaver. A very handsome woodpecker swooped into the garden. "You called?" came the woodpecker's musical voice. "Indeed I did. Everyone, this is my woodpecking pal, Trunk Tap. Now, Trunky, we need some tree resin and some real sticky stuff. Can you help us?" "Of course I can," said the woodpecker. "You've got a perfect pine right here." Trunk Tap hopped over to a crusty old pine tree and pecked a few deep holes in the bark. Thick, syrupy resin began oozing down the trunk. Mr. Beaver scooped up handfuls of the resin and smeared it all over the foot and the vines until everything was glistening with stickiness. And then the resin dried a short time later. Roz's foot was finished. "This is wonderful," said the robot as she strolled around her garden. "I am as good as new." Mr. Beaver and Trunk Tap and the Fuzzy Bandits went away feeling pretty happy with themselves. They'd done a very nice thing, but it was the first wooden foot any of them have ever made, and within a week the vines were coming undone and the foot was sliding loose, so they returned determined to make it right. They found even harder wood and even tighter vines. They experimented with resin, heating it by the fire, letting it boil and thicken until it became indestructible glue. They kept tinkering with their design until finally Roz had herself a wooden foot that she could rely on. "Huzzah! Huzzah!" Mr. Beaver rapped his knuckles on the new and improved creation. "I knew we'd get it right." Roz slower than before, and she had a slight limp, but was back to her old self again. And that was a relief to everyone, especially Brightbill. Look at her foot. Do you guys think it's going to last? It's better than having a stump, I would say. Chapter 49, The Flyer. With coaching from his mother, Brightbill was becoming a truly exceptional flyer. He wasn't the biggest or the strongest, but he was the smartest. You see, he and his mother had started studying flying techniques of other birds. They'd sit for hours and watch how hawks and owls and sparrows and vultures moved through the air. Then they'd go up to the grassy ridge and Brightbill would practice what he learned. Soon he was diving and swooping and darting and soaring all around the island. The adult geese frowned at his flying tricks, but the goslings thought it was amazing. Each morning, a gaggle of them would wait on the water for Brightbill to lead them into the sky. And then a few hours later, he'd return home to Roz, shaking his tail feathers and honking about his latest airborne adventures. "Mama! The other goslings didn't know that warm air rises, so I found an updraft, and we spent the afternoon circling around and hardly flapped our wings at all. Mama, did you see the lightning storm today?" We knew there was trouble when the wind started blowing from the north, so we flew down to some shrubs and waited for the storm to pass. Mama, we just tried to fly in formation. We all took turns at the point, but everyone liked following me the best, so I led most of the time. Chapter 50, The Button. Brightbill was thinking about the small button on the back of his mother's head. His mother was thinking about it too. They couldn't stop wondering what would happen if the button were pressed. And one day they decided it was time to find out. Roz sat on the floor of the nest. Her son nervously stood on a stone beside her. "I am ready when you are," said the robot. "Okay," said the gooseling. "Here we go." Brightbill took a deep breath. Click. Roz's body relaxed. Her quiet wiring slowly stopped. Her eyes faded to black. "Mama, can you hear me?" There was no answer. Brightbill waddled around and looked at his mother's face. Her strange spark of life had gone. The gooseling had never felt more alone. He was ready to switch her back on. But what if she didn't wake up? What if she woke up different? The gooseling was afraid to press the button, and he was afraid not to press the button. Brightbill took a deep breath. Click! Roz's body tensed. Her quiet wiring slowly started. Her eyes began to glow. "Mama, can you hear me?" "Hello, I am Rozum, Unit 7134. But you may call me Roz." The robot spoke these words automatically, in a language Brightbill didn't understand. His little heart raced as his worst fears seemed to be coming true. But a moment later, her familiar voice returned, and the robot said in the language of the animals, "Hello, son. How long was I out?" "It seemed like only an instant to me." "You were out for a few minutes," said the gooseling as he hugged his mother, "but it seemed like forever to me." Chapter 51, The Autumn. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week, after spring break, and we will continue reading The Wild Robot and learning about the adventures of Roz and Brightbill. Have a good afternoon.